Ishwar Samvar. He's an interventional cardiologist in Pune Hospital, and he has been working in his during this pandemic, and he's been actively involved in curing patients even at the time of pandemic. So I request you to bust the myths and tell us the reality behind COVID-19. I'm just leaving the forum open for you, sir. Please. Sir, I request you to unmute your mic. I think it is muted. Kindly unmute your mic so that we'll be able to listen to you.
Thank you very much. And I'm really grateful and privileged to be part of this forum. And I again thank you all for inviting me to understand our viewpoint on COVID-19. What are the myths, realities? We as a frontline warriors, we face with so many problems coming from patients. Of course, I would say, as what Shri Manish Desai sir has said, that media has played a phenomenal role. So is the government. They have been extremely vigilant about the happenings on this COVID situation, and I would say that in some time we will be portraying the best available model in containment and treatment of coronavirus. With this, I would want to share a PowerPoint, a very short PowerPoint, which would try and give you some idea regarding the myths and realities which are lurking around the COVID situation. And let us see how it helps to propagate the information that is needed to the grassroots level. Let me share the desktop presentation. Just give me a minute. Yeah, is the presentation seen now?
It's not visible yet, sir.
No, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. Now we can see.
Can we see the presentation now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So COVID-19 myths versus realities. Now let me take you through a few epidemiological surveys that I've done. The emergence of coronavirus. Coronavirus are a family of viruses that we all know that they have had periodic outbursts like MERS and SARS. But the family of this coronavirus, which had outbreak in the city of Wuhan, China, was a different coronavirus from the usual strain, and therefore it has been named as novel coronavirus. And therefore the challenge is coming with it, because we by this time we weren't knowing the predictability of this virus, and therefore that has led to all the confusion in and around. So this is a small slide. I wouldn't go into the details of it. It started in the month of December. The first reported case was in China, Wuhan, and look at the rapidity with which this virus has progressed. This implies one important thing, that this is a super spreader virus, and this has reached to the entire globe within no time. So what is this super spreader? See, in general, infected person infects number of other individuals directly or indirectly. So for a common infection, if you can see in the first part, the infectivity rate is not very high, and therefore the infection is contained to a small number of people who get in contact with this. But this virus is a super spreader, and it has the capacity to infect many at the same time, especially someone with a weak immune system, with abnormal behavioral patterns, the degree of contact, the travel patterns, and that has led to a very rapid spread of this virus. And the important part is, person can spread the virus without exhibiting symptoms, that we call it as asymptomatic carrier. So there has been a great confusion in and around who are super spreader, what if the person gets infected, what if we encounter someone who is asymptomatic carrier, what are the chances of us getting, what are the ways and means by which we can prevent this infection, and every individual come up with his own theories. There are so many messages that circulate in and around social media, and that has led to a great confusion when it comes to the understanding of COVID-19 process. So there is much to learn about this newly emerged virus. See, until now, this is a completely new virus. Even science does not mention the behavioral pattern in patient in this virus, and we are also learning it each and every day. I mean, see, when these infections started, we were all perplexed so as to how to treat this patient. Is it a primarily respiratory pathogen? How it is affecting other systems? Uh, what are the individuals who are at a higher risk? But as time is evolving, we are knowing this virus better and better, and that has led to a substantial decrease in mortality, along with a very strong reinforced measures by the government at grassroots levels. So based on what is known currently about COVID-19, it spreads via person to person through respiratory droplets. So close contact can occur while caring for the patient, including if you are within 2 meters of the patient with COVID-19 for a prolonged period of time, having direct contact with infectious secretions, let it be sputum, serum, blood, or respiratory droplets. And for us, for healthcare workers, if we do not adhere to the principles of PPE, the doffing and donning procedure, we are at a higher risk to acquire PPE. But if you take into account the method of spread of this coronavirus, I think if we implement the measures as has been laid by government from time to time, we will be able to contain this virus big way. Now, symptoms of COVID-19: fever, breathing difficulties, cough, diarrhea, shortness of breath, these are common signs of infection. In severe cases, they may land up with pneumonia, kidney failure, or I would say multi-organ failure and death. Treatment part now very important, because till date we do not have any antiviral drug which has proven efficacy against the drug. Of course, we have a few DCGI approvals for few of the mild to moderate cases of COVID-19, but there is no proven efficacious antiviral drug available. Vaccines are far from real at this point of time. I would take a slide out of it in detail. Supportive treatment and therapy remains the mainstay, but cannot be undermined, because whatever mortality and morbidity benefit we have achieved so far is with the supportive therapy and symptomatic treatment. Risk factors for COVID-19: elderly persons above the age of 50 with underlying disease. Now, this has been the observation. Even we have been fighting with this virus for last 6 months, and typically elderly people above the age of 50 with underlying diabetes or cardiovascular problems or kidney related problems or neurological problems are at higher risk. Healthcare workers caring for COVID are at higher risk. And based upon the data collected from China, there were no deaths reported under 10 years of age. Between 10 to 39 years, the fatality is 0.2%. Between 60 to 69, the fatality increases exponentially to 3.6%. And if you can see, between 70 to 79, the fatality rate is close to 8%, and above 80 it is 4. Now, same data can be extrapolated, and even when we are monitoring the fatality ratio in our country, it is no different from what has been seen in China. So in terms of mortality, at least I would say that this virus is behaving in similar manner. Now, how contagious is COVID-19? In epidemiological terms, average number of people infected by an individual is called as RO. And if you see measles, smallpox, polio, and mumps, the average number of people infected by a single individual, they range from 7 to 12, 18. Highest is with measles. And if you look at COVID-19, it is between 1.5 and to 2.5. So if we have overcome these many deadly diseases until now, measles, smallpox, polio, mumps, we have all the reasons to believe that if we keep on doing the measures as has been laid by the government from time to time, let it be locking strategy, let it be unlocking strategy, let it be forced strategy on us. If we abide to what has been laid down, and if we implement that, and taking into account the contagious nature of COVID-19, I'm pretty sure and confident at this point of time, and the way things have been managed until now, that we will be surely able to control this disease in next 6 months, I would say. Now, this is a very important slide, fatality rate and transmission rate. Now, if you see MERS, SARS coming from the same virus, they were more deadly. Coronavirus, swine flu virus, it's not as deadly, but it spreads faster, and therefore the quantum of people who are going to get infected, the number will be higher, and more the testing, more the numbers. So like Desai sir has said, that the numbers going up is not because the virus is not being contained. Now there are more and more numbers of kit available. The ICMRs have given permission to many laboratories. Now many people are getting tested, and therefore this number looks like a bigger number. But honestly, at a grassroots level, though the numbers are high, mildly symptomatic or asymptomatic people are getting detected at this point of time, but should not undermine the importance of this coronavirus, that it spreads faster. And since it's a new virus, we do not know how it is going to behave. It is absolutely essential for us to treat all the positives very carefully. Now we have COVID care centers, we have home quarantine facilities for asymptomatic. Now that's going to change, that's going to have a paradigm shift, the way things are going to get managed hereafter. So let me now try and bust some myths regarding COVID-19, which we face as doctor day in and day out, which the media propagates in terms of, say, WhatsApp or what's coming on Facebook. And then we are confronted with all such small little things. They sound very trivial, but of course they have importance in day-to-day life. Now there are few questions. Let me start with my first questions that is very frequently asked. Instead of hand washing and sanitizing, are hand dryers effective in killing the virus? The answer is big no to it. Frequently wash your hands and clean your hand. So the emphasis on soap, hand washing, and sanitizers cannot be overemphasized. Can ultraviolet light disinfect the virus? The answer is again no. It should not be used to sterilize hands or other areas of skin, as UV radiation can cause skin irritation and can lead to problems related to skin diseases. Now, this is a very important third question. How effective are thermal scanners in detecting people infected with the? Now, thermal scanners are not meant to detect active patient of corona. It is not going to give you any information about the coronavirus. It is only going to monitor your temperature, which typically rises between 2nd and 14 days. So somebody who is running fever can be segregated out and then can be evaluated, but thermal scanners cannot tell you whether or not the patient is infected with coronavirus. Can spraying alcohol and chlorine all over the body, all over the house, kill the virus? The answer is again a big no. They can be harmful to mucous membranes. Only hand washing with alcohol based sanitizers can help to contain the disease. Is it safe to receive a package or some things coming via, say, like newspaper or the courier services that we get? Yes, it is safe. People receiving packages even from China, they are not at a higher risk to contract the virus. Previous analysis has shown that it does not survive long on objects such as letters or packages. Can pets at home? Now, this is a very important question. Can pets at home spread the virus? At present, there is no evidence that animals such as dogs or cats can be infected. However, it is good idea to wash hands with soap and water and follow whatever norms that has been laid from time to time. This protect against various other common bacteria as well. Do vaccines against pneumonia? See, we have some pilot projects going with a recombinant BCG vaccine in certain subsets where it can have some activity against the coronavirus, but till date, there has been no efficacious vaccine that has been seen against coronavirus. Viruses for pneumococcal vaccine and Haemophilus influenza, which is commonly given to elderly people, do not render any protection against this coronavirus. Now, can regularly rinsing your nose with saline prevents infection with the virus? Yes, there has been a lot of talk about this these days, but there is no evidence that regular rinsing the nose with saline has protected people from infection with this new coronavirus. However, it can help to recover from common cold quickly, but at this point of time, it cannot be recommended. Can gargling mouthwash protect from infection? Again, the answer is no. There is no evidence that using mouthwash or gargles can prevent the spread of infection. Now, some eating habits. Are there any particular? Now we have been listening to this garlic, etc., etc. There are so many. So to date, there has been no food which has been preventive, but yes, vitamin D3, vitamin C taken in ample can help you to have a better immune response should you have coronavirus. But at this point of time, a particular eating food habit cannot be recommended. Does the new coronavirus affects older people or younger people are also susceptible? See, we know until now that all the ages can be infected, but of course, elderly people with comorbid conditions, with cardiovascular conditions, with diabetes, they are at a higher risk, and the disease seems to have a more turbulent course in elderly people as compared to young people, but doesn't render any immunity in terms of the severity in youth as well. So we have to be cautious, but of course, with certainty, we can say that elderly people with pre-existing comorbid conditions are at higher risk. Now, are antibiotics effective in preventing and treating this virus? This is a virus. No antibiotics are going to work. This is given only if you are hospitalized to prevent super infection. So do not fall prey to any of the advertisements regarding antibiotic usage. Are there any specific medicines to prevent or treat this virus? Till date, prevention, there are no preventive medicines. There has been a usage of hydroxychloroquine, which was recommended sometime back as a prophylaxis, especially in healthcare workers. But till date, we do not have a scientific data supporting the usage of any prophylaxis, chemoprophylaxis. There are no specific medications to treat this virus as of now. We have approval of a few antivirals in patients who are seriously ill, but these are all ancillary treatment. The mainstay of the treatment remains to be supportive and symptomatic uh, treatment. Vaccines, they are not available till date. We may have few vaccines coming, but vaccines, they have their usual process. They have to go through different phases before they are marketed. They will have post marketing surveillance. So we should not be complacent that okay, the new vaccine is on the horizon and we'll have a vaccine in some time, or now we have certain drugs, so let's be complacent and defy all the norms laid by the government from time to time regarding social distancing and usage of mask and the hand washing, etc., etc. And there are few new drugs coming. There are few vaccines which will be available. We are not yet there when it comes to absolute prevention and treatment. What we have to fall back is on the lifestyle modification measures, social distancing, hand washing, usage of masks. They still remain the mainstay of the treatment. And with this, I would say that I have tried and addressed few of the myths that are revolving in and around the COVID-19 situation. And I would say that we have been able to contain the virus. If you ask from medical perspective, yes, we are still not in the stage of community spread, I would say, which is a phenomenal achievement. Till date, we are there in this COVID situation for last 4 months or so. And if we follow whatever has been done and whatever has been said to us and whatever we have been following till the time we have definite answer to this situation, I think we will be able to contain this virus appropriately. uh, Thank you again. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts and my attempt to break some myths and realities regarding COVID virus. Thank you.